Hey there, this is Kevin Monroe, and I want to welcome you to day 4 of the Navigating North Summit. We are so excited to have you join us for today's live panel discussion. We've been doing these live panel discussions every morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, simulcasting on Facebook Live, and then, having the archive later. So before I introduce the panel, let me give you a kind of a quick overview so you know what's going on and so you're not confused or surprised by anything, or when we make references to other people that aren't part of the panel, you'll know who we're talking about. So we're in day 4 of the 5 days of the Navigating North Summit. This is an online gathering of people, and we just had an update. We have now reached participants, have people joining the Navigating North Summit from 66 countries around the world. So wherever you're joining us from, wherever you're viewing from, we are elated to have you with us. Navigating North Summit is built on conversations. So there are like 4 types of conversations, really. Let me give you those. Every day, there are 3 new featured conversations that are released. These are previously recorded conversations that you can watch at your leisure anytime between now and 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, when, Eastern Time, USA, when the next batch of conversations are released. Then each day, what you're about to participate in is a live deeper dive or panel discussion conversation where we get real fun with this. And then we ask you to join in and continue the conversation. You can do that on the Facebook, on Facebook at the Navigating North page, or the Higher Purpose community, which you can find by going to livehigherpurpose.com. Now, in today's featured conversations, you're going to hear from Dr. Rhonda Kehlbeck of the Halftime Institute, also in Texas. And I say also because you'll meet Susan in a moment. She's from Texas. And if you're wondering why Susan is so glowing, it's not just because she's excited to be here with us to talk about purpose today. She'll tell you the other reason in a moment. I got to save the suspense. Some of you probably already know. Then we also have Sanford Coggins, who also has Texas connections, played football, wasn't it, at Texas A&M Christian University?
Yeah, I went to Texas A&M.
So he was started as a quarterback there and then changed positions. And then the third featured conversation today is Giovanna Ellison, whom some of you may know as Lady J, and she explains that in her featured conversation. So in today's discussion, there are ways you can join in. If you're on Zoom, which several of you are, you can join by either chatting, and I don't want to give you bad information, so there is a menu bar somewhere. It may not be on the bottom of your panel. It is mine. It may be at the top left, but there is a panel that has some icons that has chat, and you can join in the chat. I see our friend Susan Axelrod, who will be on tomorrow's panel. I know Susan will chat because she gets active in the chat. So join us in the chat, share your thoughts. And then there's also the Q&A bar where you can ask questions. If you're on Facebook Live, give us a shout out there. We see some folks joining in there and folks saying, hi, Marvin, because I know Marvin's a big Facebook guy. Lisa Micon is saying, hi, Marvin, from Facebook. So and you can view this later on the Navigating North Summit. Today's panel will run about 60 minutes. It is not necessary for you to have listened to the featured conversations to enjoy today's panel. But if we make references, we're not talking about people that are in the room. When we talk about Giovanna or Rhonda or Sanford, we're referencing conversations you can see otherwise. So now, I'm delighted to introduce our panelists. We really should have had 5. Well, one more so we could have 6 and we could do the Hollywood squares of Navigating North Summit. But we're missing a square. So I'm going to start and ask you to introduce yourself in just 2 or 3 sentences. And I'm going to start at what's on Karen Anderson. Karen, introduce yourself to us.
I'd love to. Karen Anderson. I actually, in my real job, I'm an acquisitions editor for Morgan James Publishing. So I've been in the publishing business for 20 years. But my bigger claim to fame is that I love my children. I have 2 daughters and I love them, but I really love my grandchildren. So I have, they were kind of necessary to get to the grandkids. So I have coming up on, my girls got married 5 years ago, and we are expecting our 6th grandbaby, and the oldest is 4. And so we have a 4-year-old, 3.5-year-old, 2.5-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, and a new baby.
Wow.
I missed somebody. Yeah. So that's really what's important to me. So.
Okay. I'm also a grandparent, so I get that. Susan, you can introduce yourself, and now the big reveal. Why are you glowing?
The Houston Astros won the World Series last night. My hometown, so happy, so proud, especially after the hurricane this year. Great success story. So I'm very excited. But that is not why we're here, right?
It's just bonus. It's bonus.
It's just bonus today. My name is Susan Fenema. That's how you pronounce it. It's scary looking. I should have stuck with my maiden name, Dean, so everyone could spell it. I run a small business, Beyond the Chaos, and I help small business owners get their lives back, really. I help them through organizing their operations and their project management so that they are not working 24 hours a day. I love it. I didn't know it was a calling, but it is. So that's why I'm here.
All right.
Glad to be here.
Delighted to have you joining us, Susan. And I realized, I was thinking about this panel, it was just over a year ago now that you and I had a sit down face-to-face when I was in your area attending a conference in Dallas.
Yep.
So, all right. And Marvin.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Marvin Taylor, and I am from Long Branch, New Jersey. My day job, I am the director of an educational nonprofit that works with inner city students to help them develop the life skills necessary for college success. I am also a productivity trainer. That's kind of one of my passions, but I guess when we get to purpose, I think it's about helping people transform their lives by disrupting their limiting beliefs.
Hey, Marvin, let me ask, do you have a volume? Some people are saying they can't hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
There you go. I could just move in a little.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
It'll be shining a little bit more, but but yes, if you didn't hear what I said, I work with inner city kids, helping them develop the life skills that are necessary for college success. And kind of like my through line in life is helping people break down their limiting habits and beliefs and behaviors so that they can get to the success they want in life. So whatever work I do, that's what I'm trying to weave into whatever the stated goal is. What the real goal is, helping people get free to get success.
Awesome. And Christy, you're not really here to contribute to the panel, but we don't want you just to sit there in silence. So say hello, tell us about you and why you're joining us.
Hey guys, I'm Christy. If you've been joining us for a few times, you're probably getting a bit familiar with me, but I am helping on the back end of things. So I'll be here in the chat, keeping an eye on Facebook. If you have technical troubles, write in, let me know. But Kevin and I met a couple of years ago, I think, and reconnected this spring, and it's been an absolute joy to be working on this summit with Kevin.
Well, thank you, Christy. Yeah, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow. I'll just tell you, I had no idea how mammoth of an effort a summit was. Really, I didn't. And there is an amazing team that's pulled together to make this happen. And we want to give them plenty of shout outs. But Christy's kind of the glue that pulls it all together. And Susan, you could appreciate this because your project management background. Christy has project managed this thing and just made it happen. So thank you, Christy. We're glad you're here. You will see her in the chat. She's managing the chat. So if you have a comment or a question, feel free to ask it there. She'll get it to us. So let's start with a really simple question. This is one I frequently ask of guests on the Higher Purpose podcast. Your personal journey to purpose, Karen, Susan, and Marvin, more of a straight line or a zigzag?
I'm definitely a pretty much straight line.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And not,
Let's get the other votes, then we're going to come back. Karen.
I was going to say straight line.
Wow. Okay. Marvin. Okay. I'm feeling better, Marvin.
And then go this way and then go back in a straight line. I mean, yeah.
And well, so can I expound? So for me though, I've always had a sense of purpose in what I am doing. And so that has always been an anchor for me. And so, but in terms of the specifics of how that plays out, obviously they're ebb and flow.
Yeah. And Susan, straight line.
pretty much a straight line. I mean, it's evolved, and we'll get into that over time, but if you look back on it, I would have never thought I would be doing what I do now today a long time ago, but it has evolved in a fairly straight line. I haven't gone off on a bunch of different careers or a bunch of different pursuits. It's evolved directly, pretty much.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. That has not been my case. and I know far more people that can say zigzag, so I am glad to see the straight line column growing some. But I am more like Marvin, zigzag, corkscrew, black hole at times. So, something I've learned, and we had a bit of a discussion yesterday, and it was so good that I wanted to repeat the question with you all. Think about your awakening to purpose. Now, for Susan and Karen that have been more straight line, this may have been an earlier awakening. For some of us that are in the zigzag, we have multiple awakenings to purpose. It's not, there was an original, but then there, fresh awakening. So just pick one and share with us briefly about your awakening to purpose. And I'm going to ask Marvin to go first on this.
Well, that's a great question.
Thank you.
And
it's a fun question.
Very quickly, there's not it's a great question. And that's how you get far in life, is by asking great questions. So just to go to one, because mine was so zigzag, I'll go pretty far back to when I was in high school one time, and we were having an assembly during Black History Month, and my history teacher was this amazing. She was a memorable teacher. She was and she'd always wanted me to get involved in student government and leadership. And I definitely had resisted. But now I was a senior, and the Black Culture Club had kind of fallen apart and disappeared. And she approached me, and I was able, and this is where you have a purpose, but I can't tell you how it happened, but I was able to mobilize, and we put on this incredible incredible program for the entire school and the library. And the reason why I think of that is because a while ago, like on Instagram or Facebook, maybe a couple years, I did a Throwback Thursday, and I was like, wow, I've been speaking publicly for 30 years since I'm 17 years old. And there's this picture, and I remember after that happened, feeling powerful, feeling empowered, and people coming up to me, and I don't even remember consciously what I said, but I said things that moved them and helped them. So that was a time when I knew I was on purpose. But because of my journey, that went away for, a while. But that was one time where, and now I can look back and go, there's this leadership quality that comes from within, not, power versus force, that, I've been blessed with, that I don't always use. And I think that's why it's so zigzag.
We're going to come back to that, Marvin. So hang on. Susan.
So I think I've always known I can organize things. Shoot, when I was 3 years old, I would organize my mother's button collection, as a game. So what changed for me to find purpose was when I stopped acknowledging or recognizing only that I was good at it and that I could make a living at it, but how I could affect others through it. So the purpose became initially I was doing some home organization. So helping people be better in their homes and not be stressed out because they were surrounded by clutter all the time. And that evolved into business. And watching some of the small business owners that I've worked with who come back and literally say, you gave me my life back. I mean, that's just, that's a purpose, so there's a distinct line for me of when it changed from I do this for myself to make a living to I do this to help other people.
Wow. Okay. We're going to come back to that one too. Help me remember that, Christy. And Karen.
Well, for me, it started when I was really, really young, probably elementary school. And I'm by design, just who I am. I'm a helper. So I became a helping professional. And so helping has always been my theme. That's been my purpose, basically my whole life. And so, and I was just thinking about it, and this was really fun to think. And I remember as a young child reading a book called Cherry Ames. Most people probably won't remember that, but she was a nurse and she was a helper. And I remember being so inspired by her and how she helped. And then I actually went to, I ended up becoming a marriage and family therapist. And so that was my first career. And it was really about helping people communicate. And then it sort of has kind of morphed over the years so that now I help people get their books done and their books out into the world. And so I jokingly call myself a book midwife, from conception to delivery. So I really help people get that out there. But whether it's been through helping people communicate better or get their communication through books or whatever, I've always been a communicator, a book person, and a helper. So that's kind of my straight path, but the way I've done that has changed over the years.
From the chat, Susan Axelrod said she remembers the book, remembers the series, read every book. So I want to bring that in. And Susan, you may have already answered this question or kind of tapped on it, but let me ask another question. What are you doing when you feel most connected to your purpose? I'll let you go first, Susan.
Sure. What I'm doing is really when I'm having the one-on-one conversations with my clients. It's interesting because they are asking questions that, when you do it all the time, in your head, doesn't everyone know this? But you feel empowered because you're actually sharing knowledge that you just count as base knowledge that's helping other people totally change the way that they do things and look at things. And when I'm having those conversations with people, and that ties into the relationship, right? That's been a theme throughout this whole week is the relationship quality of building that relationship and seeing that person grow and being able even to come back months later and just be so proud of them, that's when I really feel most empowered and on purpose.
Okay. For you, Karen, what are you doing when you feel most connected?
Well, right now, I'm really, when I'm talking to people and helping them figure out what they want to do with their book and getting that out, launched into the world, that lights me up and I love that. But I was also thinking, and maybe it's not appropriate to say now, but I was also thinking I had a really, really hard season a number of years ago where it actually was about 8 years where I did family caregiving. Yeah. And so I sort of had to put my purpose, that's probably not the right word, but what I was doing aside, because I ended up caring for my mom and my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law. Had a series of people that I was caring for. And so did I feel like I had a purpose that time? Yes, but that was very different than what I do. But I needed to do that. And there was that sort of wilderness experience during then going, I was just taking care of people. But at that same time, that was a really valuable thing to do. And I'm a helping professional. So, I could do that well, but it was still different. So it's a bit of a tangent, but
Well, we're going to come back and talk about that. And I know that part of your story because that came out in one of our pre-conversations. So we're going to talk about that. But how I would describe that is your pursuit of your personal purpose was interrupted by life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And that happens, folks. I mean, there are times we think this is what it is, and then boom, life has a different plan, and things happen, and that all of a sudden becomes part of your purpose. It doesn't derail you from your purpose. It becomes part of your purpose. So, Marvin, what are you doing when you feel most connected?
When I get out of my own way and I do things like this.
Lean in a little to the mic.
Yeah, when I get out of my own way and I do things like this online summit, for instance, or when I'm training. Susan hit on a really good point. I think anyone who's on this summit, as well as hundreds of thousands of people across the world, we all have something to give and share. And we take it for granted because we're like, okay, I read this book or I did this, like this information's readily available, right? But not everyone has access to it. So when I'm out of my own way and I'm sharing the knowledge and the things that, I don't know if it's knowledge or learnings, ideas, that's it. When I'm sharing ideas, and particularly about success, and success is not just about money, even though that's kind of one of my factors of success, but I know it's not about that. Health, wealth. Whenever I share an idea that can impact someone's idea, and I see that their pupils get large, or you just see the light bulb go off. Mm-hmm. That's when I'm feeling most empowered, because I'm empowered. And when it's funny, empowering others is when I'm most empowered. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty good at public speaking. I should get better. but and I say that because I'm better than, it's one of those things where I know I'm better than like 98% of the population. So I but when I get feedback and people just are so moved, it's them being moved that is when I'm in my power.
Awesome. And I'm trying to think, this has just been an amazing week, folks. So many conversations, so many interactions, and it's hard to remember who said what when. But yesterday afternoon, I was in a conversation with someone that had participated in yesterday's panel, and they were talking about when we were having this question, that the common theme they saw is when people are on purpose, others are involved. Mm-hmm. And we have a conversation today, featured conversation from Dr. Rhonda Kelbeck of the Halftime Institute. And Halftime Institute is an organization that's built out of, its origins trace back to a book from Bob Buford, which was called Halftime, Moving from Success to Significance was the subtitle of the book years ago. And one of the things I realized in that journey for me, it's really easy for success to be about you. And to kind of, now I think we should have better and broader definitions of success. And I know Marvin has that, but in the traditional definition of success, it's about trinkets and toys and accumulation, but significance always involves others. You can't be significant in isolation. So purpose, when we're really in the pursuit of purpose, it always has some kind of overflow to involve others. So let me ask a question, and I'm sure people watching the call can relate to this. And I know I can relate to this. Have any of you ever, and so only those of you that have felt this can answer, have you ever felt stuck in the journey, stuck on your path? And if so, what happened to help you get unstuck? So raise your hand if you've been stuck. Okay, so everybody, it's an all play. Who wants to go first?
I can jump in.
Okay.
In the mid to late 90s, I was in Houston. I was single in my mid 30s. I was working in a company that I felt like I could bring more to it, but they didn't really like my style. So I was thwarted, right? I had to hold back what I could bring. And I said, it's time for a change. I've always wanted to work in advertising. I looked for a job in advertising and I moved to Chicago. I didn't know anyone in Chicago, but I moved. I made a dramatic change in order to follow my purpose and to get more involved and to be able to use that skill set more to its fullest. And it was scary, right?
Yeah.
I left my family. I left where I lived my whole life and moved to a whole other state. And it was very empowering too. That's and being able to meet more people and do more things and bring that service into other people's lives.
So this reminds me of a comment Mike Kim made in yesterday's. Mike Kim was one of yesterday's featured conversationalists. And just to kind of connect the dot, it was through a Mike Kim meeting that I actually got to meet Karen Anderson live in person earlier this year. But Mike made the point that sometimes in his journey was stuck, didn't really know what was next, Susan, like you, but knew the pain of staying where he was
Right.
too great.
Yeah.
And so there are times, folks, that we don't always have the map laid out for us, but you just take a step because there's something more.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just take a step, and it's one of those leap and the net will appear. I'm not always advocating that, but Susan, Karen or Marvin, who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Because
lean in.
I'm actually in that place right now that Susan just described. I've been with my organization for 5 years, and I definitely have been thwarted. I've been held back. Now I work with some very esteemed traditional educators inside of the public school system. I've gone all through that system, all the way to a professional degree, having attended law school, and I'm here because I don't practice law. So I have these I have great ideas about, and the biggest education I got, I've read more. Let me back up. If you know anything about law school, it's just a ton of reading, a ton.
Yeah. Which is why I'm not a lawyer. I was considering law school, and a lawyer friend of mine mentoring at that point in my life asked, "Do you like reading?" I'm like, "Not that much." So if I liked reading as much then as I do now, Marvin, I would have been fine. But keep going where you're going.
You just hit the nail right on the head. See, I went to law school because I did not have a mentor. I did not have access to someone who's an attorney who did tell me that it would be like being a librarian of the boringest stuff you could read. My point is that I have read way more now. I read sometimes 6 books in a month, right? Because I'm passionate about success, because I thought I was on this track where if I, and this is where I'm struggling, where I'm stuck, is we're telling kids to go to college, which I think is a great thing. If they're going there to think, if they're going there to learn how to think, if they're going there to build a network, right? So, so some of the traditional things that we do, so I'm always throwing in my transformational stuff from every course I've taken, because it's the life skills that's going to make a difference. So I was stuck. I'm like literally stuck. And last night there was a breakdown where my boss, like we have been butting head to heads for years. And it's apparent because I've been praying for life direction and for breakthroughs and abundance. And I'm like, it's time. There's never a good time to make that leap, but there always is a time. And what I can
whoa, say that again and tweet this, Susan. I see you over there saying some things you're tweeting. Say that again, buddy. That's good.
For everyone out there listening, there is never a good time to make the leap, but there always is a time when you have to. And you will suffer if you don't. Way worse than any catastrophic scenario that you're making up of why you can't do it. So it's never a good time to do it, but there always is a time. And I'm very close to that time because and once you do that, what you can do, what I found, this is all evolved over last night is that, okay, you open up your awareness. Resourceful. I heard this morning, resourcefulness leads to more resources. Okay. So it's perfect for me to be on a summit about navigating north and what your purpose is, and to be a little off purpose because it's bringing me back to myself. So it's just a great honor to be here and opening up my awareness to all the resources and people around me who have gone before me in that mentorship you were talking about.
So Marvin, I have to tell you, man, if you can say, I'm getting misty-eyed here. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being vulnerable to share that. And while you're talking about this, I'll tell, it was because of a book that actually allowed us to meet. True?
Yeah, absolutely.
We had both read the book, The One Thing, and were part of a program that was Time Blocking Mastery. It was the founding members club. There were 100 of us that went through this beginning of last year. And Marvin was one of the few people that I really connected with through Facebook, a community. And we connected and we have stayed connected because of a book. So I really appreciate you sharing that, Marvin. Man, you just had some real tweetables in there, more than one. The resourcefulness leads to more resources. And there's somebody that is watching this, whether you're live or streaming or a recording later, that you can relate to that. You feel a need to make a leap. It doesn't look like now is the time. It's not a comfortable time to make a leap, but there is a time to make a leap. It's never good. It's never easy, but you make a leap. Karen.
I'm so excited for Marvin right now, by the way. I'm so excited. The opportunity that you have to open up in front of you. I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Karen, have you commented on this yet? I don't think so.
Not yet.
Do you remember the question?
Yeah, I do. This may sound a little bit strange, but so for me, there was a time that I felt really stuck because I was in conflict about two things that really, really were important to me in terms of purpose. And that was I was a marriage and family therapist, and I was working full time. And then I discovered I was pregnant. And I wanted to, with my first daughter, and I really, really, really wanted to stay home, but I really, really didn't want to stay home. And so I was really conflicted about what I should do, because my career was important, but my family was important. And I knew I had purpose in both things, that I really wanted to be a good mom, but I really felt like I had some things to offer as well. And so it was a time that I felt very, very stuck. So I decided to make the leap to stay home with my daughters. And that was very challenging for me. But I struggled with it. So I decided to get in a PhD program. and I thought, okay, that way I would sort of stay home, but I'd be in school, which wouldn't be the same thing. And then I thought, and again, there's a faith element that I have, but I felt like God was saying, no, that's not what you need to do. Because basically you're trading school for a full-time job. So I was like, okay, great. So then being the person I am, then I applied to an MSW law JD program, a law school program. And I thought, well, I'll go to law school because that's not the same as a PhD. It's a different program.
No, it's the quickest doctorate degree. It's 3 years.
Yeah. And I could get into it. So I got in that program, and I felt like God was saying to me, no, that's not what I want you to do. And I was like, dang it. Okay. And so I finally was just like, okay, I really am committed to being home with my girls. And then I felt like this door opened up through a colleague, where I ended up doing a private practice at night. And so I was able to work in the evenings, and I was able to stay home with my girls during the day. Now, was there a cost to that? Yeah, there was. I was a little cranky. But the bottom line is I felt like I was able to use the word navigate. I was able to do that. But I never would have gone straight to that kind of evening private practice, stay home. Like that's not how I started. So I felt stuck. But I think that sense of being open to looking at things differently, and then when you're beating your head up against the wall and the door's not opening, then maybe that's sort of a sign that you can go in a different direction. So anyway, I don't regret doing that. And that kind of led to different things for me. But because I was a little crazy during, that season, but it was a good thing for me to do.
Okay. There's something that occurred in the chat. that picked up on a thread of the conversation that I just want to do a shout out to a book. Several people have talked about LEAP. There is a book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And Marvin, I think you just said in the chat, you've read it 3 times over the last year.
Yes, I have. And it's because I knew I've been stuck. I've been stuck for 2 years. So I read that book. It's a great book. And just before you go back, that there was something when Karen was speaking that really hit home with the original question of how do you get unstuck? For people listening, for me, one thing that has really helped is making a decision.
Yes, definitely.
If you want to get unstuck, make a decision and then act on it.
Absolutely.
Yes. And both parts of that are equally important. Making a decision, but it's not enough to make a decision unless you take action on the decision made. Because I've made a lot of decisions in my life. Right? I mean, I could make a list of decisions I made that I didn't take action on. So taking action, and that's something that was a conversation earlier in the week. We can go there if you want. We don't need to go there. I'm not introducing the topic to go there, but action leads to clarity.
Yes.
And with action comes more clarity, folks. So if you haven't heard one of those other conversations, the importance of action. Marvin, because we're talking about The Big Leap, I will tell you this. I read the Big Leap was introduced. I lead a mastermind group, the Higher Purpose Mastermind. Somebody in the group mentioned it earlier this year. We decided to read it as a group, read it as a group, processed it as a group, processed it with another friend who's on, I don't know if she's still on the call, was on the call, panelist for tomorrow, Ann Vertel, and I talked through it, how this meant, what it meant for us. And navigating North Summit, I didn't realize this until we were in it. This was a big leap, and we had taken the leap and didn't know at the time that we had leaped. But all of a sudden, it's like along this journey, it's like, oh, wow, we leapt. So you may not know you're taking the leap when you do it, but taking the leap. And so just a little bit, I don't want to get lost there, but Gay Hendricks talks about the zone of competence. Those are things you're really gifted to do. The zone of excellence, those things you do exceptionally well. But where we want to leap is into the zone of genius. And genius is, going back to Tom Winninger's conversation from Monday, genius is when you are living in awareness of an application of your gift. The gift God has given you, your unique gift. When you're living in that, no one else can do what you're doing the way you're doing it when you're fulfilling your gift. Okay, so didn't mean to get stuck there, lost there. Dr. Rhonda Kelbeck, in her featured conversation today, she talks about encountering purpose in a most unexpected place, a kindergarten class, through a most surprising turn of events. So have any of you just had one of those really, wild moments where this wasn't where you went looking for purpose, and all of a sudden you're just doing something because you were taking action? You're like, oh, wow, purpose showed up. Purpose revealed itself. Karen, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah. So I had taken this 8 or 9 years that I was doing family caregiving, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, I knew that I wasn't content just hanging out doing nothing, but I didn't know what I was just floundering. And there was a conference that I heard about. It actually was a direct response marketing conference. This was about 3 years ago. There was a conference, and it was a very high-end, very expensive conference. Like you could take a vacation with this conference. And there was no reason for me to go. And I read about it, and I ended up one morning in tears going, I want to go to this conference so badly, because I basically got a high school reunion, like a lot of people that I'd worked with years ago. But I wasn't working. I wasn't doing anything. I was staying home. Everybody was settled doing their whatever. There was no reason to go to this conference. And I called a girlfriend of mine in tears and I just said, I really want to go, but there's no reason. And she said, Karen, you know better than most. Life is short. Get there, do it, just go. And so when I did, I ended up meeting this young man and ghostwriting his book. That led to me getting back into publishing. Like that started, that just attending that one conference, I felt compelled to go, ended up being the door that really has changed my life. And because of the people that I've helped get books out into the world, changed many lives. But it was really making that decision to get on that airplane and go. And I felt very awkward, vulnerable, weird going to this when people said to me, so what do you do? I'm like, what are you doing now? And I was like, wow, that's a great question, because I didn't have an answer. I really wasn't doing anything. But being present there ended up making the doors open in ways that I never would have expected.
Okay. I've got something to add to that, but I want to defer to the panelist. Susan, Marvin?
I don't know if I can say that there has been a time where I acknowledged purpose showed up. It might more be that I recognized it after the fact. I really believe that you find purpose through action, through doing work, and you discover it that way, as opposed to the other way of, I need to find my purpose and then go work on that, right? Opposite. You find it through that action. And so I think a lot of the times I'm more aware that the purpose is showing up after the fact. So I can say things like, I moved to Chicago. I was a traffic manager. Those are the people who move projects through an ad agency. I was a project manager for an ad agency, and that ad agency shut down within 9 months of me starting there. And I had just moved across the country for it. But the next job I got, I managed over 10 years, close to 100 people. And those 100 people I guarantee you, even the ones that I ended up firing will tell you that they learned something from me. And in retrospect, that is a lot easier to see that purpose after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that
Leanne?
I think that one time, I think it's time for me to get a new computer. I think that one time where it showed up unexpectedly, or the universe orchestrated it, was I'm a big fitness guy, Kevin, you know that. I think that it's very important to be healthy if you're going to live a life on purpose, because you want to be able to do all the things you want to do. So I think you really have to take care of that part of yourself. And part of my journey has been being a fitness kickboxing instructor, and some Gay Hendricks, some big leap, upper limit stuff showed up all the time in my life. But there was one morning where I had been the star instructor and I moved away, and then I came back and they punished me by giving me the 6 a.m. class. And I like to bring things. If someone's going to be at a fitness class at 6 a.m., a kickboxing class, I have to be up around 4:30 because I have to be fully awake, fully energized, because they're dragging their butts there barely for me to energize them. And one morning I just woke up. This is when I was living in Santa Barbara, California. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, you didn't get paid much, but I loved it, being in front of people. And that morning I went in, I just went outside. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was just brisk and Pacific Ocean, and the sun was coming up. And I was like, this is why you do it. Just that moment. But I went to the class that day, and I taught, all my classes were amazing, but I taught this class. And after the class, a woman ran up to me and said, oh my God, do you always teach this class? I'm coming all the time. Right. And so I was like, yeah, I always teach this class. So the next day I get a note, and it said, can you please get Patty to sign her waiver? Okay. And so I look at her form and I look at her email address, and it said patty@chickensoupforthesoul.com.
Oh.
And I knew Jack Canfield, who lived in Santa Barbara, and I wanted to connect with him because I knew about him from the movie The Secret. This was the time that had dropped. And so the next morning after she came to my class, and Patty was the woman who loved the class. I said, do you know Jack Canfield? She said, I'm the president of his company. How do you know Jack Canfield? And I told her about The Secret, and I knew the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. Long story short, about 3 months later, I was Jack's personal kickboxing instructor and trainer, and they took me out to his 7-day Breakthrough to Success event, and I taught kickboxing to like 200 people in the morning. And that was one of those moments where, and that's where when you're on purpose, if it's whatever your purpose is, you can weave it anywhere. Like through the kickboxing training, I was able to work with one of the top transformational leaders and help people set them up for a powerful day. Just going to a kickboxing class, that was not in my purview. I'd asked that day, why do I do this? And that day is the day I met the woman who connected me to Jack Canfield.
Wow.
So.
Okay, so there are a couple of themes here, and there's some things that these conversations are touching on, and I'm trying to stay present in the moment and also present to the community that's joining us. So I'm watching some of the stuff in the chat. It's not always easy, is it? And sometimes purpose. Viktor Frankl, whose book Man's Search for Meaning, if you've not read that, I highly commend that book to you. I've read it, reread it, listened to it on Kindle, on Audible. But Viktor Frankl was a Jew who was in concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and he was a psychologist, I think. And he saw purpose and meaning, interchangeable words for many, purpose and meaning, as a powerful force to help people endure and survive the most difficult situations. So Karen, you talked about, and you and I had this conversation before, about a period of years where you were a caregiver to multiple family members in the last days of their lives. So let's talk about when you've been discouraged, and I really want to find, what can we do? What's something that you've done that might help someone else who's in that situation right now? That's really kind of where I want to focus it. Not so much just autobiographical, but autobiographical to help others.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, I had situations, and again, when you get to a certain age, this happens, when you have aging parents or people that you're caring for, or in my case, my sister-in-law was a widow with no children, and she got breast cancer. And so I was able to care for her. And I was doing most of this long distance. So I was doing it in different cities. And so I was flying places, and I was making doctor's appointments, and I was managing estates, and I was making arrangements. Doing it all. And I think the thing that was something I learned to do just in terms of survival, which is that it was really okay. I needed to give myself permission to take care of me. Because if I didn't take care of me, I couldn't take care of them. And there were many times when it was really, really, really hard. I was exhausted. There were so many details, and there was so much grief, and there was so much family dying. There were so many things going on, but I needed to take care of me. And I know it's cliche, but the idea of, on the airplane, the mask, when the mask drops down, they say, put it on yourself before you take care of the person next to you.
Okay. So I want to interrupt you, and I want to dig a little deeper. What was something specific you did to take care of you?
Yeah. So I would get my mom tucked in at night. And then I would go back, and I would make sure that I connected with my family, like my girlfriends, my support system, because I remember one night it was New Year's Eve. I was in New York City. My sister-in-law was at Sloan Kettering. I was all by myself in New York City, and I took myself out to dinner, and I went to a really nice restaurant, and then I came home and I called my family because I needed that support. I needed to take care of me. And so in taking care of other people, you can lose yourself really easily.
So before we hear from Susan or Marvin, I just have to piggyback on that and say, Karen, I'm so glad you brought this community element in. We need other people. You can't do this alone. If you are in a stuck place, hopefully there's someone already in your circles of influence, your circles of connection. If not, find someone, put yourself, make an intentional move. So I'd also go back to something Karen said earlier, when you went to that conference, there is really something. Jeff Goins, in his latest book, Real Artists Don't Starve, talks about community, and I interviewed him for the podcast recently, talked about, I think, 3 levels of community. It's a scene, so find a place where people are connecting. You went to a place where you found like-minded people. If you're looking for one of those places, the Higher Purpose Community is one. It's not the only one, it's one. If you don't know of one, we welcome you there. Connect to a network. Marvin talked about that earlier. At a scene, you connect to a network, and you have other people that can help you, and then you make personal connections, and you leverage that, and you work through the network. So those are just some really good things there. Susan or Marvin, anything to say, to add to this? When an encouragement for someone who's feeling stuck, someone who's in a painful place.
There are absolutely times when you cannot get yourself out of the situation. Similar to Karen's world, right? You can't just say, "Oh, I'm not going to take care of these people." And I think that when you get in those situations, and I'm just going to speak from giving advice, because I don't think I've had one like that, where there wasn't a way out. But to make sure that you are also finding ways to serve that purpose. Karen, you say you are a healer and you take care of people, right?
I do.
You were serving your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so if you can kind of tap into that, I think it can make you feel better when you're stuck. Mm-hmm. To get unstuck, if you're not, in a situation that you can't walk away from, you have to change. And I'm sorry about this sun. It's crazy. You have to make a change. As we've said, make a decision and act on it. That is change. Don't be afraid of it. Go for it. Mm-hmm. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
I would add that, as was shared, there are some things that you just don't control. And the thing to do is to ask yourself, what can I do? And what can I control?
Yeah.
And for me, the easiest thing is, like, people are like, what are you going to do? I'm going to go for a run, or I'm going to go lift weights. Why? Because I'll feel better, because I will change my state. And when you change your state, which can be as simple as taking deep breaths, when you change your state, you'll have access to more resources. And then look for small wins. Well, what can I do? What can I control? Because what I've learned is that success is sequential, not simultaneous. And success is getting what you want. It can be taking care of your family, whatever it is, but there's always one little step you can take. So do something to change your state, to become more resourceful, and then do one small thing that you can do, and then build upon that.
So I love that, Marvin. And I just want to say it a different way. And I'm trying to think who said this, but remember, and Viktor Frankl illustrates this, you always have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a choice. It may not be an easy choice, but there's always some kind of choice. And the choice may be what you just said. And I want to just call out, because Marvin and I, it's been quite a while since we've actually connected for a conversation. I didn't realize these difficulties. I want to commend you for answering the invitation to show up, be part of a panel, because you could have easily said, gosh, I'm in a place right now where I don't have this figured out. And folks, that's what I think people are loving about the panel discussions. We did not pick people that have written books on how to know purpose in 3 easy steps. What I invited to the panel are people that I know from a variety of spheres and connections who are pursuing purpose, living purpose, embracing purpose. So that's why you're here. So Marvin, I just, because it would have been easy to say, or it would have been easy to not talk about that. So I appreciate you being vulnerable to say, hey folks, this is really real. As recent as the last 24 hours, we were doing this around purpose.
Thank you very much. And it was like Susan said, it's the awareness of, because I've had such a breakdown yesterday. I was like, no, the awareness, you're on this panel. And then things just started showing up. Like even a friend of mine sent me one of those chain emails on Facebook, and it was like, the money truck is pulled up to your house. And I was like, how perfect is this right now? Like a chain letter with a truck of money spilling out on Facebook. But it's just telling you, you have what you need. And I literally said to my wife, I said, you know what? I almost forgot, like you said, I almost forgot who I am. I'm Marvin John Towler.
Boom. Boom. All right, so we're moving to the top of the hour. What's the final word that, or an action or an encouragement that you would just want to leave with the group, the people that are listening? What's just something that you've learned from your journey, something that inspires you, whatever it is? I don't want to confine you to an answer, but just something that you'd share we've had some serious discussion. So let's leave on a lighter note. Encouragement on the journey. Susan. Susan's going to say the Astros won.
They did. And you know what? They didn't give up. And that's really one of my tips. Don't give up. If you're not happy where you are, if you do not feel like you're adding value to whoever you're supposed to be, whether that's yourself, your family, the people you're working with, a community, wherever you find that value, you need to get yourself there. And you don't get yourself there always by introspection, right? Often it's just by go do something. Go do it.
I'm a big fan of introspection, but there are times in my own life, too much introspection becomes navel gazing.
Yeah, it can be.
And you just get stuck and you get lost and it can be bad. I'm sorry I didn't even watch a single game of the World Series. I'm not that big of a sports fan.
That's okay.
Period. But I did read enough to know this. When you said don't give up, even when the odds are against you, even when it looks the most impossible, when it looks like all hope is gone, don't give up. Susan, thank you. Let's go to Karen. I'm going to let Marvin John have the last word. So Karen, would you?
Yeah. And I would say, I think one of the things, even in the Viktor Frankl quote, whatever, is when you feel so out of control, when the world is swirling around you and you don't feel like you have a lot of options and you can't get out. Like in the caregiving situation, you can't just go, you know what? I don't feel like doing this today. Because you have to, and you have to persevere when things are really, really, really getting hard. And so that I would say, but one of the things that people often don't do is they don't celebrate small wins. And sometimes I think you have to celebrate the small wins. That kind of attitude of gratitude, that if you can celebrate small wins, it gives you a little bit of spark, it gives you a little bit of hope. And it helps you to focus on what are the wins, what are the little things that you can take away. And they don't have to be big, but you have to be aware of them. And I think that can help you with your perspective when you feel like you're out of control.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, folks. I mean, this is an intensely rich discussion. Thanks for that, Karen. Marvin.
Wonderful sharing. Thank you so much. And just to build on what's been said, if that's even possible, you look around, you're like, I have this unfinished room behind me, and I call it my war room. And it's just a reminder that I'm a work in progress.
There you go.
And I think I'll finish with, on one of my walls I have posted up right in front of me is, and there's 2 things for people to take away. It is a slow process but quitting won't speed it up.
Whoa. Say that again, because that is good.
It's a slow process, but quitting won't speed it up.
Wow. Okay, somebody, I'm going to tweet that later.
And as someone who ran competitively track and cross country, I like to move fast, and I love what we've shared about the small wins, because I have not taken enough time to celebrate them, but that's something I've taken in, and that's why I remind myself that it's slow, but quitting won't speed it up. And I really want to leave people with this, and it's a quote by one of my favorite. I'm an old school guy, Norman Vincent Peale, and it's action is a great restorer and builder of confidence. Inaction is not only the result, but the cause of fear. Perhaps the action you take will be successful. Perhaps different action or adjustments will have to follow, but any action is better than no action at all. So get moving. When you're stuck, get moving.
Wow. I hope you have enjoyed this half as much as I have enjoyed this. I want to thank Karen, Susan, and Marvin for joining and just being so open, real, raw to contribute to the conversation. I really hope this has encouraged you. I'm telling you, if something out of this didn't encourage you, your encourager button is broken. We need to get that. We need to get you some help on that somewhere. And I want to encourage you to watch the featured conversations from today. This will be this is being recorded. The recording will be shared. If you can find it on the navigatingnorthsummit.com website, the Facebook page. If you want to point other people to this, share this with others. The one big call to action I want to mention is, if you are going it alone, don't continue. Find somebody, reach out somewhere. This was just awesome. In the Navigating North journey, we are assembling all of the recordings from the featured conversations and the recordings of the panel conversations. If you want to have these ongoing, there is an opportunity to purchase all of that. When you purchase it, you get it in video, audio, and transcript for whatever way you want to read it. I look forward to reading and listening to this one again. I can assure you of that. So I just want to thank you. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you all that have joined us, the attendees. I hope you've benefited. We've monitored your feedback, responded to your feedback. If you joined us by Facebook Live, thank you. We're having fun. Purpose is fun. And, I just believe this, and I know the folks here with me believe this. The world is a better place when more people are passionately pursuing purpose. So we want to just encourage you to keep navigating north on your journey, and we're thankful that you allowed us to contribute to it today.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everyone. This was great.